RV that already did basically everything, now did even more. Hey everybody, Josh the RV Nerd of Bish's RV, down here at Ember again today. They've applied a couple key, really nice updates to this 22 ETS model, and I always wanted to get one of these on camera with a theater seat option in the living room instead of the standard dinette, and I kind of got to have my cake and eat it too today. This model right here is one of these that in some of my previous videos, like last year I put out, it's on my personal nerd preferred list. Like, I'm a household of 3. We were a one and done family, me, my wife, and my kid. If a small family like ours was going to go out, we wanted something under 30 foot that was like really flexible. This model right here works because it doesn't have to be a double over double bunkhouse. That's the thing. The ETS and the MSL Ember models, they can become almost anything you want. By default, what we're looking at here is a double over double bunkhouse. But if I have only one kid, I don't need 2 big bunks. So we could give her one dedicated bunk and then create her own little lounge space down below it. Or we can bring along, like, outdoor stuff, e-bikes, maybe. You've got a pack and play for a little kid that hasn't grown into a bunk yet. You could do something like that. If you have dog kennels, if you need a place for a cat litter box, if you are looking for a laundry solution in an RV that's not a 45-foot fifth wheel, this can now do that. It can do almost anything. I like the light colors. It makes it look and feel big. The taller ceiling doesn't hurt. This is 6'10" from floor to ceiling. The underbelly's enclosed. We have Goodyear Endurance radials on this sucker right here. It's TPMS prepped. You can get factory solar packages on it. It can do almost anything in 30 feet. And I personally really like the theater seat setup on this because I think the owners of the RV during a rainy day want a comfortable spot to be able to sit down and chill out. And you still have the dining bar available for a bowl of cereal or something like that. Nothing says you couldn't pull a table out to operate like a dine-esque arrangement. But that's my way of camping. Maybe not everybody else's. Let me know what you think about this. And if you like how we give you all the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button as we go. So if you walk in the door, turn your head left. This is basically what you're going to see right here. It's why I like to try to get out of the way as much as I can. You see enough of my talking face all the time. Try to let you know like what it's going to look like when you come in. That's also part of the reason I don't like to use the fisheye wide-angle lenses. I like to try to represent this as genuinely as possible. This is going to be an RV. I think the way that it's equipped today, some people are going to be like, what are they even thinking here? I want to walk you through why I like it. And I respect that you might disagree. First of all, I am a sucker for a dining bar arrangement. And you know what? You might not like the 2 stools right there. They're not exactly, butt friendly if you got a bony backside like mine. But the power outlets, the phone chargers and everything down there, this, if you need to make a little emergency laptop station or just have a phone charge station set up, that's really handy. Something else that's easy to miss on these Embers is you see the little amber lighting down here. You'll see some more of that like around the in the bathroom area. There's one switch there you can flick to turn all those off and on so that you can kind of like nighttime navigate. And there's even a dimmer switch down there as well for your awning lighting, which is kind of cool. Now, all of our main cabin lighting is also on dimmer switches, but every single one of these lights, of which, I mean, they put a very aggressive lighting package. Here's an interesting little RV construction factoid for you. Between full materials and labor and everything, windows and lights are basically the 2 most expensive things in RVs. And if you want to make an RV less expensive and look the same, you start peeling out windows and lights, So they invested quite a bit up here. The 18,000 BTU Furrion Chill Cube is something I've really come to enjoy. And if you notice, a lot of luxury fifth wheels, Brinkley's, Cougars, a lot of brands have adopted those things right there. It should have no trouble keeping up and keeping the weather cool in this. Now, if it looks a little bit bigger in this RV, it's for 2 primary reasons. The lighter color palette overall is helping you there, although there's just enough of a dark contrast here and there. But the taller ceiling, industry standard, is 6.5 feet. This is 4 inches taller. It's 6'10" from floor to ceiling, 82 inches if you prefer to do the math on it. And it's a number of centimeters that I can't convert in my head offhand for our, metric friends. I think it's about, it's about 23 bananas tall.
Sorry, that's kind of a joke between me and some of my Canadian buddies. They like to always say that Americans will use anything but the metric system, and we like to use bananas as a standardized system of measurement. Hey, it's only stupid if it doesn't work, you know. Moving on from there, in case you're curious, the countertops, they are a TFL, which is talk for thermal foil. That is a 12-volt smart TV. It can pivot around, and like there's a bunch. I'm going to go through, I'm going to get all the storage open on this, and we're going to basically go through this thing layer by layer because there's a lot going on here that's very easy to miss. It is hidden hinge cabinetry. Hold on. In the touring edition, the drawers are soft close. I'm kind of blanking on this right now. Hey, look at that. Even here in the E series, those are soft close drawers. Very nice. Oh, I always forget they have those extra set of power outlets down there as well. So your kitchen area, like a lot of RV manufacturers, they'll put the power outlets under an overhead cabinet. But with an extra tall ceiling, that's a long gap right there. So they make sure that you have easy access to power outlets. So thankfully, they're GFI protected. That one's a little close to the sink. I don't know that I necessarily need that one, but that one over there is very, very handy. Working our way around, I want to talk to you about the stovetop. A lot of people don't realize this. They see a 2-burner stove and they think Ember went cheap. I respectfully disagree and think they went smart, and here's why I say that. What you may not know is that these are dual 9,000 BTU high output burners. On a 3-burner stove, you have a 9,000 and a 4,500 low output rear burners. This combines the back 2 burners into 2 high output burners that can actually boil water. And that's the problem with a lot of those 3-burner stoves. Your backs, 2 stoves burners can't cook crap. They just really can't. Now, I'm going to reassemble this in multiple different configurations later. For now, we have this in just generic double over double bunkhouse mode. And this is certainly what a lot of RVs look like, but it's very effective at that. They have these rated technically at 600 pounds per bed. I have a photo on the phone in my pocket where they loaded up 1,200 pounds of rock salt on each one of these. This is literal, just like E-Track, that you can get from like your home construction store. You can, and because it's E-Track, there's a whole world of accessories that you could hook up back here. I've seen people come up with like hammock arrangements. There's actually one Ember owner who has a cat that is basically like sick. And what they did is they created what they called the catio. And this cat has its own like social media where they travel around with this cat in their Ember RV, and people offer donations to help, the cat's treatment. I've never seen one RV brand appeal to so many different people. And what's crazy is it's like the same floor plan. Like by default, we look at this could be a family bunkhouse camper. And when I say that, you say, yeah, but why is this maybe a theater seat instead of a dinette? Personally, I really like that because we still have the dining bar. Now, by default, if you just order one of these straight out the catalog, there is a 2-bench dinette here with an easy up-down table. I have previous video of that if you'd like to see it on my channel here. I prefer the theater seat option because there's enough seating and dining in this for my personal family of 3. Your family might work a little bit differently, but my family of 3, my wife and I would really like that theater seat. My daughter would be just as happy to kind of stretch out and have her own little space when we are inside the camper on the rear bunks. And if she's not camping with us, we can take the bunks away. And this becomes a crazy cool couples camper that's still about 30 foot and not extremely hard to tow. Frankly, most half tons are going to be able to handle this one pretty darn readily. I like the TV location, albeit up a little bit high, but the fact that it can pivot between the seating in the slide, the bed, and the dining bar, for me, makes a lot of sense. I like RVs that give me a lot of different flexible options, and I'm taller than the average bear, so having a residential queen size 60 by 80 bed down here, that's something that I personally appreciate. And again, they are not shy about putting power outlets where it really counts. You can see very clearly both front sides of the bed have the outlets, and you might notice that we don't have any heat vents in the floor. It is all cabinet ducted. All Embers are ventless flooring and carpetless, but kind of hidden behind these extra tall wardrobe towers, you have the headboard power pockets back here with their own little amber reading lights. Actually, let me get the camera up a little closer for you. kicking my shoes off since I'm up here on the bed, getting you up around this thing. If you don't want that amber light, the good news is that, of course, you can just kind of turn that off right there. But you get the idea. Let me kick some light on back in this corner. You've got household, USB outlets. Then you see that little black grommet right there. If you want to like put a Starlink system on the roof and you want to be able to have the cable oh my Lord, run to the interior. I am so ashamed of myself. Runned. And I bet my editor's going to have just a field day with that one.
Yeah, if you want to run to the cable after you done spunned it out on the road trip.
As you can tell, I'm not afraid to provide a laugh, even at my own expense. Easy lift bed. I like how there's plywood decking. I don't mind if there's OSB decking below it, but plywood just looks nicer. Feels like less of a splinter factory to me. I appreciate how the overhead cabinets defy gravity. And you don't have to, juggle them open with your head. And just in case you missed it, I don't want you to ignore the fact that they do have drawers on both sides of the bed, but with the mattress up in the way, it was a little hard to see. You may also notice how we have things like an actual curtain for the bedroom. It's not a full bedroom privacy wall. The blackout roller shades. Let's talk about that. You want a full privacy wall? You like what you see? Like, yeah, but I like real privacy. Take a look at like a 26 ETS Ember. Guess who's got a video of that? This nerdy fool. It's slightly longer, and it's actually a full super slide with a sofa and a dinette, but it does have a full privacy wall. Surveyor has a very similar model to this with a single seat that also has a privacy wall. 260 Surveyor, I think it is. The overhead storage here, let me actually just shove my hand up in here for a reference. Like that's pretty good sized space right there. Now you might, when you look at the refrigerator, you're like, why is the cup holder swivel stand in the freezer? Because the freezer door wanted to close itself, and I wanted to show you how big the freezer was, so I had to get creative. Obviously, I'm no Steven Spielberg. I run on a little bit more of a limited budget over here. Handy little coffee bar. I think one of those kind of small profile Keurig or whatever machines. I know there's other things other than Keurigs, but it's just the name that always pops into my head, Working our way around here, they actually, they provide, I think, some very respectable kitchen storage and countertop space considering the size of the RV. A lot of times you start getting double over double bunks, and the kitchen really gets pinched off pretty painfully. And the bunk storage is always a bit of a challenge, so you may need to repurpose potentially some of that dresser space there, pantry space as like the bottom two cabinets. Make that like closed storage for the kids. And I love that they give us a spot down here for a big old wastebasket. Now, in an E-Series Ember, they don't include a propane oven. You have a propane cooktop, you have propane hookup outside. But that's the kind of 3-in-1 air fryer, convection, microwave sort of thing right there. And I think very respectable drawer space, for a kitchen of this size. That all works very well. I forgot to point this out. My favorite part of every Ember RV is always snooping around until I find this sticker right here, the Use Common Sense sticker. Love that thing. I mentioned how the TV can pivot around. Technically, I guess you could say there's a little bit of storage back there. But, if you wanted to be able to sit at the dining bar, lay back on the bed, put a pillow behind you, there's no shelf above the bed, so if you wanted to sit up and read a book, watch TV, whatever, like you could do all that kind of stuff right here. While we're looking up here, I do also want to point out they include a bigger vent fan here, so that if you do, it has limited window coverage. Like, that's something I haven't really talked about. Let's acknowledge that. Let's just, I'm not trying to gloss over and hide the fact this RV has very, very limited, especially campsite window coverage. But if you want to get some good airflow in here, that ceiling fan, that vent fan that we looked at, the bigger one, is really handy. Now, this right here takes a long time for me to wrestle all this stuff off camera, so I hope you appreciate the extra effort. But one of the things that I like most about these is how you can do almost anything you want with these Embers. because basically everything hooks together, but it's piecewise and removable. Like I left the platform. This is all aluminum frame platforming in this, by the way. So it's lightweight. It's like if my chicken arms can move it, anybody's can. But it doesn't have to be a double over double bunk. You could actually leave one double bunk, say like on the bottom, and make this a 2-bedroom camper. You could leave the second bunk up top and leave a cargo space down below it. That's probably how I would use it in my own personal household. Theoretically, you could put an extra sleeping space on the floor and create your own triple bunk arrangement because you got this quick release E-Track stuff. You can do anything you want. You can raise, you can lower the bunks. There's all kinds of different cargo strap down attachments that can hook into this. And, if you want everything to just flat go away, well, it can do that too. Or how many people have ever looked at a bunkhouse on video and said, could I get that built with an office instead? Factories don't really offer options like that, but Ember allows you to create that option without ever modifying anything from factory spec. You don't have to do any worry about like sacrificing warranties or anything like that. And where I'm standing on camera, there's not really any view of power outlets, but there are power outlets back in that corner. And this one's actually outfitted with their solar package that includes an inverter that could run those outlets even when you're off grid. So if what you're really looking for is just the kind of, open air sort of inspiration space or fully enclosed, like I said, you can only do everything with this. And that now includes a laundry function that previously was not available on these. To give you a better look at the outlets I mentioned, like we have USB plugs over here. There's household outlets to my bottom right. I'm not sure how this shows up on camera. I'm all backwards, but they have now added washer dryer. There's some outlets right there. Washer dryer hookups back here. You're going to need the outlets for the washer dryer hookups if you want to do that. Now, someone might look and say, this is right next to the kids. What if they think it's funny and they want to turn that little cold water feed on or something like that? Every single water line in this has its own individual disconnect. You can turn that off before the water gets to the washer dryer hookup. So it doesn't matter if the kids feel like playing with it. But if you are looking for a potential laundry or office situation, you don't want to have to get a 45-foot fifth wheel. This is a really rare, really cool opportunity for you to have that access to that function. And flipping back the other direction, you can see that, if you need wide open cargo space, you can you can pack stuff right in this. And with the big side load cargo door, not just a rear load cargo door, you don't always necessarily need like a folding e-bike. Like not every e-bike is a folding e-bike like mine is. Some people don't have that. Well, now you don't got to worry about it. You don't have to leave it outside, Porcelain foot flush stool with fairly fluffy, friendly space. I thought I was going to bonk my right elbow. Never ended up doing that. Based on your feedback, Ember used to be running a plastic sink in the bathroom, and they said, customer said, hey, we don't like that. And they said, fine, here's a stainless, enjoy. And I like how they're always responsive and listening. It's not always like, well, what's the cheapest thing we can do? It's like, what do people want? Fine, let's do that. I like the backlit morning mirror. Very handy for late nights, early mornings. And this has an extra tall ceiling. So when I stand in the shower, first of all, you see it's got the handy little retractable kind of door on it. It's a big rectangular shower as well, so elbow room for me was not a problem in here. But neither was headroom, even with my shoes on, which is something that I like. We've got a drunken octopus fight club happening over here. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, that's RV Nerdism number 37. And once you see it, you'll never unsee it, is my guess. I'm not always a fan of open face linen storage, but when it's narrow, I give it a little bit of a pass because stuff does tend to stay in there. And you might notice fully enclosed bathroom door with a lock for privacy, so you don't have any sort of peekaboo, I smell you concerns happening in there. What I can't remember on this model is what kind of walk-through functionality we have in here when the slide is closed. But if you give me a hot second, yeah, I was thinking it was going to get awful tight here awful fast. One of the other things I want to mention, even though we're right up in the face of this thing, this is the exact slide system. A lot of people don't realize there's two different types of cable slides. They come from the same supplier, but they have different systems. This system allows you to sit in the slide while it's retracted. And where that may come in very handy right here is doing a little maneuver I call the Luke knee walker. And that is where I leave my left foot on the floor. I plant my right knee on the sofa, and I slip, slide, and grind my way past this sucker right here. And it allows me to get to the rest of the RV with the slide closed. Now, I'm not saying that's an awesome solution, and I think with the dinette, it is not as readily accessible as what we have right here. But potentially, depending on if you want to come in through one of the cargo doors or slip past the sofa or whatever, you can maybe get back to the bunks or the bathroom space right here. But one of the things, as long as I've got the bunks out of the way, check this out. With the cargo door off the back here, you have a straight cargo shot up the backside of this thing. I don't think a 2-seat kayak would fit. It would be close, but like I have personally test loaded kayaks up the back of this and all kinds of stuff. Like it can create it, for people who like a normal toy hauler would be too much for them. They don't have a 4-wheeler, but they have bicycles and stuff like that. This is a really cool way around that. And in a way that like it has a rear receiver hitch on the back, but if you have fancy expensive bikes and stuff you don't want to leave outside in the weather bouncing around for somebody else to put their hands on, it's nice to be able to have that stuff enclosed behind a deadbolted door. Now, something that really, I forget how lightweight these are, because this doesn't look like a really lightweight brand, but when you actually look at the weights and the measures on this, it's borderline shocking to me how heavy it is not, which I know is a weird way to phrase that, but that's how it makes the most sense to me. Now, to help teach you how to fish, sometimes the brochure weights that you see on a manufacturer's website don't always accurately represent the real RV. Come over here into the driver's front corner, a little RV pro tip for you, and look at these tags, and you have to take a minute to decipher them. But what this one's saying is that its GVW maximum weight is 69.95, 7,000 pounds. This one's empty weight is 54.13. That could be different from what we just saw on screen a minute ago, because this one has some non-standard optional equipment, like, say, the solar package that's on this. Let's talk about that real quick. By default, E-Series Embers have 0 factory solar. The one we're looking at today has their off-grid package, which consists of 400 watts of solar up on the roof, a Victron 30-amp MPPT charge controller, which if you don't know what that is, that's the blue box that is coming into view right now. And anyone who knows about solar stuff knows that's actually a very respectable brand of solar hardware. And the big black box above that is your 2,000-watt inverter to run a bunch of the household outlets. So none of that is factory standard equipment. But I do like how they put their battery disconnect up high. And you might notice how they have that portable solar plug over here so that if you want to park in the shade and chase the sun, you have the option to do that too. Down below, the black box on the right is your TPMS prep. It's basically plug and play. And if I can do one of those, they are very simple to set up. So can you. The red switch beside that is indicating that this RV is equipped with the optional holding tank heat pad feature. By default, this has an enclosed heated belly. The tank heater pads are not standard. They are available as an option. That's one of those things you can't see, but that red switch is the dead giveaway if the one that you're looking at a store has them or not. They don't put that switch on there if the RV doesn't have it. The tires are still running good years here. That's one of the funny things I feel about Ember. They call this the E-Series, meaning that to them it means essentials. But this is already, like if you start comparing this within the industry, this has more equipment than, I would say, it's in the upper half of laminated RV brands. So even though this is the starter point for the Ember lineup, this is not an entry level kind of camper is kind of what I'm getting at here. Like the nicer slam latches, the full rear and side view camera prep, the superior stabilizer jacks that they have down here. Ember was actually the first manufacturer to adopt these, like the Chill Cube Airs, these better quick drop stabilizers. They've kind of been on the forefront of a bunch of that stuff. And then you also see the sewer hose tube over here. That's something I often forget to showcase on these, so that you do have a place to put the old stinky slinky when you're done with it. Now, another thing I like is how they completely finish off this pass-through. Like, you don't see the wood skeleton work under the bed. Don't get me wrong. It's not like that makes it a better built camper. It just looks nicer. You know what I mean? Something else that you can't see but has to do with construction is that right below the fiberglass skin and actually on the bottom of the floor, they use Asdel composites. So they're using
Asdel layering essentially on the majority of the outer shell. The roof is completely stick-built, though. But where your corners meet, like where your sidewall meets your roof or something like that, they do in a Turnabond treatment to act as a secondary seal system, essentially. A lot of S's and alliteration in there. I remember when I was in kindergarten, Mr. S likes silly socks. And that's, for some reason, the one Mr. letter that I always remembered. I also remember the time I told my kindergarten teacher, I called her Grandma, and I knew immediately that I failed. And I didn't even know why, I just knew it was wrong. The fun stuff kids do. But this back here, this, like, I've seen so many people during show season, they walk up to the camper like this and they go, I don't get it. When you see one of these ETS MSL Embers with the removable bunk system, you have to kind of ask to have it demoed. Like I put it back together in bunk mode because there's somebody else who's going to come look at this later, and out of respect to them, I didn't want to leave the camper like the bunks all blown apart on the inside, you know. But I realized I hadn't shown you how it does have the screen, the full-on like garage door bug screen that rolls down. So if you're sitting inside there and you want some airflow, you can keep the bugs out. And on that note, that's actually why they finally started putting like basically a miniature screen door on the back cargo door of this thing, where you can load up a cargooscopy up the back side of this sucker right here. And it's literally just a miniature version of the entry door. Like, it has its own deadbolt security features and everything, but the screen back here is something they just never used to have, so you can now get maximum bug-free airflow. And I mean, here, let me open this one more time to kind of show you around, but like the cargo tie downs, the extra power outlets all over the place. And once again, remember, like when you look at this, you're like, I don't want my washer dryer hookups right next to the kid's head. What if they play with those valves and turn them on or kick them at night? Remember, you have water disconnect valves where you can shut that off, so even if the kids happen to turn them on, nothing happens. You don't end up flooding the camper, you know. Very, very key point to talk about. One other key point I want to talk about is the weather rating on this. Now, this is not actually cold chambered and weather tested, so the best I can tell you is it's extended season rated, which actually has no meaning. It has no definition, but to me, what it means is that if the weather drops below freezing tonight and it's going to come back up above freezing tomorrow, you're going to be okay. If it's going to be negative 40, this is not made for that, because you might notice it's a simple basic outdoor water docking station, but it gets the job done. It's also a single point sewer outlet, which I know a lot of folks like. And as we back up, you might notice that on-demand water heater back there. That is a 60,000 BTU variety. I like to point that out because basically it provides 50% more capacity, more like faster heating and greater range of temperature as compared to a lesser expensive 42,000 BTU variety. So essentially, if you're going to be camping in shoulder season, this one lets you get hot showers more reliably. That's what that essentially means. But once again, remember, my previous videos don't always reflect this, because this is a newer change. The washer-dryer hookups on these, any Ember E series with the letters ETS in the model number, or Ember Overland, or Touring with MSL in the model number. They all now have some form of washer-dryer hookup on them. Some of them are done a little bit differently than others, but they all have that laundry capacity in them now. They're one of the very few brands that has really embraced that and found a way to incorporate that in more models on average in their lineup than anybody else. So I think that's kind of a handy thing. Again, the way that Ember's listening to the marketplace and trying to just give the people what they want. You know, that's really been their whole game plan from the start, and they continue to put that out today. And if you like what you see, if you're kind of curious about price tags or serious about price tags, double check the link in the video description where we have anything in stock listed with pricing clearly for you. And short of that, if you like how we give you all the extra details and all the effort we put in for you today, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you the next time around. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.